Hey, novelteers! So I saw in a beginning writers group the other day someone give bad advice about prologues. What was the bad advice? That nobody reads prologues, so just call it chapter 1. No. Don't do that. There's no way a prologue can be a chapter 1 because if it's written correctly, it isn't chapter 1. It's set apart from the rest of the story, possibly in a different time period or with a different character entirely. That's what makes it a prologue. It sets the tone for the rest of your book. And every story doesn't need a prologue, but some do. And a well-written prologue is an asset. How to write a well-written prologue is what we're going to go over today. Because most prologues are not well-written. This is why they have a bad rap. I'm Devlin Blake, novel writing and self-publishing expert, coach, published author, and former ghostwriter of 200 books. If you're writing a book, be sure to check out my Novel Writers Club in the link below. But let's talk some more about prologues. What are they good for? And what the heck are they? Well, they set the tone for the rest of your novel. For some books, not having a prologue can really affect them and make them not make any sense. So if that's true, why do so many people consider them bad? Well, it's because most people don't know how to write a prologue. They turn it into a big info dump instead of treating it like its own tiny story. Because that's really what a good prologue is. Its own tiny story that sets the tone for the rest of the book. It's also set apart from the book because it's usually set in a different location or features a different character other than the main character who narrates the rest of the book. For example, a guard loyal to the royal family risks his life to smuggle out the last infant child of that family during a revolution. He plans to take the child somewhere safe to be raised, and then he's out of the picture and we never see him again. But then the rest of the book is told from the main character's point of view, which is that child, many years in the future, all grown up. And if you think this sounds familiar, it is familiar because that is how Harry Potter starts. But the mistake a lot of new writers make with this setup is that they'll have the prologue start with the guard and the baby already in or on their way to the safe place, while the guard reflects on all that happened. That's boring. And this is why prologues have a bad reputation. Readers don't want the background explained to them. They want to see it. They want to see the guard grabbing the baby from that cradle and fighting or hiding from revolutionaries, running out of a burning building. They aren't interested in the guard's recollections after the fact. That means nothing to them. And that brings up the next issue with prologues. It doesn't match the rest of the story. A prologue is a promise of what's to come. I just described a very exciting scene. However, if the rest of your story doesn't match the excitement in the prologue, you've broken your promise to the reader. It's a bait and switch. One time, I read this manuscript with a very exciting car accident in it as the prologue. It was well written, it was what a prologue should be. Until I read the rest of the manuscript. I expected more of the same, but instead the rest of the book was about a man in the hospital falling in love with his lady doctor. It was not a bad story, but it didn't match the prologue at all, and that really turns the readers off. Now, it's all right to only match that level of excitement in what's known as the final battle or the change or die scene, but if that's the case, you're going to have to drop constant hints to let the reader know that's coming and that you didn't break your promise. They just have to wait. That's usually done in horror and thriller novels. The best example of a prologue I've ever seen is Dean Koontz's Funhouse. The prologue starts back in the 50s, or it might have been the 60s, I wasn't real clear on that. But anyway, an upper-class teen has run away to join the circus. She marries one of the showmen and gives birth to a deformed baby that she believes is a monster. The baby's father is not bothered by the baby's deformity. However, the woman is, and horrified by her monster of a child, she kills it while the father is out and then runs away. The father discovers his dead child and knows right away who did it, and then he swears revenge. He pretty much tells people his plan is to wait until she has more children, and then he's going to kill them, so she'd know the pain of losing a child that she actually loved. So, then the book starts. About 20 years later, we meet the woman's new child, who is 16 by the time the story starts. This new child is the narrator for the majority of the story. We see a little bit about her life, and then we see the circus is in town. Because of the prologue, we know her going to the circus is going to end badly. She doesn't know that, though. As the story goes on, strange things start happening to her, and she realizes she's being stalked. and many young women her age in the town are being found killed. She doesn't realize she's the target, but thanks to the prologue, we do, and we know who's doing it. If the story had no prologue, it would also not have the tension it manages to build up in every page. It would actually be boring because we don't know enough about what's going on to sense her tension. Because this is a cat and mouse story. And as far as excitement levels go, cat and mouse stories don't have the same energy as the prologue. But Kuntz fixed this with the climax. It was very exciting and completely matched the energy of the prologue, which brought the book full circle and fulfilled its promise to the reader. And this is how you write a prologue. And for those of you thinking that this was based on the movie of the same name that was also Dean Kuntz's, you're sort of correct, but the book was so much better. But when a prologue is written well enough, the story simply doesn't make sense without it. It's not a fun extra. It's an integral part of the story. It's not something to skip or info dump in. It's its own mini story with its own characters and little climax. Treat it as such. And if you'd like to learn more about how to write a novel, be sure to check out my Novel Writers Club at the link below. Also remember to like and subscribe to see more videos on writing and publishing your novel in this brave new world. Until next time, this is Devlin Blake saying, write on.